Welcome back to this 5-part video series about how to structure and buy real estate using creative financing strategies. By learning these different strategies, you'll have additional ways to profit on real estate deals, making you a better and smarter investor. This is video 2 in the series, and on this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about structuring and buying real estate using a creative financing strategy known as seller financing. Coming up. Hey, it's Jerry Norton, the nation's leading expert on flipping real estate. And if you're new here to make more money in less time flipping real estate, subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. Now, the typical way a real estate transaction happens between a seller and a buyer is once a price is negotiated and a purchase and sale contract created, there is a closing and the buyer secures funds to pay the seller. These funds could be cash or a loan from a lender. So at closing, the seller gets paid the agreed upon price. If he or she has an outstanding mortgage lien or unpaid taxes, those get paid off at the closing from the proceeds to the seller. And at that closing, once the seller is paid, the deed of the property is transferred to you, the investor, and you're the new owner. And if you got a loan to buy the property, the new lender now has a lien on the property in the amount of the loan. That way, if you default on the loan, the lender can foreclose and take back the property. That's what happens in a conventional real estate transaction. Now let's talk about an unconventional or creative financing strategy called seller financing or owner financing, or sometimes it's often called an owner carryback. All of the videos in this 5-part video series about structuring and buying real estate using creative financing, I've created a playlist and I'm going to put the links to those videos in the description box below this video that you can watch later. Okay, seller financing is when rather than getting paid off in full up front to sell you the property, the seller agrees to sell the property to you with little to no money down and then carry the balance owed in the form of a seller finance loan. In essence, the seller is being the lender for you on his or her own property. For example, let's say that a seller agrees to sell you his property for $100,000, but rather than you borrowing the money from a third-party lender, like a bank or a private or hard money lender, and paying off the seller in full for $100,000, the seller agrees to wait to get paid off and instead becomes the lender and finances you to buy his house. In this case, ownership would transfer to you like normal, but now instead of having a mortgage or deed of trust with a third-party lender, the seller would be the lender. And he would be protected with a mortgage lien on the property, and he would collect interest payments from you. Now, buying properties using seller financing is a great creative financing strategy, but it only works when the seller owns the property free and clear. If the seller has an existing mortgage lien on the property, you can't do a seller finance purchase because there is already an existing lien holder. In that case, there is a different creative financing strategy we use called Subject to, which we'll discuss in another video in this 5-part video series. And you may be thinking, well, not very many people own their properties free and clear, and that's actually not true. It's estimated that 1/3 of all real estate in the US is owned free and clear. In fact, stay to the end of this video and I'll show you how to get a list of free and clear homeowners in any zip code. So why would a seller agree to wait to get paid and do a seller carryback loan? That's a great question, Jerry. I know, that's why I asked it. There are 2 main reasons. The first reason is the seller gets a higher purchase price. Whenever you buy real estate on terms or using creative financing, you pay more than if it was a cash transaction. And that just makes sense, right? In exchange for waiting to get paid by financing you the buy on the property, the seller gets a higher price. Now, this is also beneficial to you, the buyer, because now you don't have to raise the capital and come up with most or all of the cash to buy the property. To help illustrate this point, let's do a comparison of a cash offer versus a seller finance offer. A cash offer is usually 70% of the after repair value of the home, less any repairs, whereas a seller carry offer is usually 85% of after repair value of the home, less repairs. So for example, if the ARV is $100,000 and repairs are $15,000, here's what it would look like. A cash offer would be ARV of $100,000 times 0.7 is $70,000, less $15,000 in repairs makes the buy price $55,000. So you'd have to buy the property with cash for $55,000. But for a seller carry offer, the ARV of $100,000 times 0.85 is $85,000, less $15,000 in repairs equals $70,000. So to buy that property with seller financing, you could pay $70,000. That's a $15,000 difference with seller financing versus a cash offer. And that is an incentive for a seller to do a seller carry for you. Okay, pro tip here, help the seller understand the difference in price between a cash offer and a seller carry offer as a way to motivate him or her to take the seller carry offer. If I know that the seller owns the property free and clear, I would present my cash offer to establish a low price with the seller, but then as a bait, I'll say, hey, if you're willing to consider owner financing, I can pay you a much higher price to buy the home. Most of the time the seller responds by saying, well, what does that look like? And opens the door to discuss a seller carry. Now, reason number 2 is in addition to getting more on the price, the seller also earns cash flow from the interest on the loan payment that you would make each month. So that's more money to the seller for doing a seller carry. Now let's discuss the terms of a seller carry. There are 3 main terms that you will need to negotiate with the seller when doing a seller finance deal. The first is the down payment. It's possible to get the seller to carry 100%, but most sellers will want you to have some skin in the game, or in other words, they want to make sure that you're financially committed to the deal. This is typically 5 to 10% down. Now, a workaround to the down payment is using the rehab funds as your skin in the game in lieu of a down payment. In the example we gave earlier, we had a $15,000 rehab budget. Explain to the seller that you're going to spend $15,000 renovating the home, which will increase the equity or value of the home and count as your skin in the deal. You could even offer to put the $15,000 in escrow at closing to be used for the rehab to make the seller feel more comfortable that you're actually going to spend the money on repairs. Now, the second term is the interest rate. Now, if you plan on keeping the property long term, work hard to negotiate a low interest rate. Typically 5% would be great. Since I'm a flipper, I don't plan on holding the property more than a few months, so it doesn't really matter that much to me. So I'll use that to my advantage. For example, I'll offer to pay 8% interest with 0 down because paying 8% instead of 5% for a few months until I flip it is worth it if I don't have to put 5 to 10% down and tie up the cash. The third term is when the loan has to be paid off. Typically the payment is amortized over 30 years, but a seller doesn't want to carry the loan for 30 years, so they'll have a maturity or due date of when it's due called a balloon. And this could be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever you negotiate. Now, if you want to hold the property long term, get as high a balloon as you can. A 5-year balloon is typical, but again, since I'm a flipper and I only plan on holding the property a few months, I'll use this term to my advantage when negotiating. For example, I'll offer 8% interest, 0 down with a 1-year balloon. My hope is the higher interest and shorter balloon will offset the 0 down with the seller. Now, once you've agreed on the terms and they're all spelled out in the purchase and sale agreement, you could pay an attorney to draft the paperwork, but seller carry deals are pretty common, and I usually just have the title or escrow company do it for me. So the key to doing seller carry deals is being able to find free and clear motivated sellers. And check this out. Active subscribers to my house flipping deal management system called Flipster get free motivated seller leads added to their account every single month. And with all of these leads, there is an equity field and you can sort by equity. So the leads with 100% equity are sellers who own their properties free and clear. These are prime candidates for doing seller finance deals. And free and clear motivated sellers is just one of dozens of tools that come with Flipster. It has tools to organize, manage, and streamline every step to flipping houses. To learn more and see it in action, just go to getflipster.com or click the link in the description. Hey, if you learned something on this video, show some love, hit that like button right now and leave a comment. Let me know your biggest takeaway and if you plan on using seller financing as your investment strategy. I'd love to hear from you, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm dedicated to helping you make more money in less time flipping houses so you can live your dream life. And finally, this was video 2 in our 5-video series on using creative financing to make more money in real estate. So be sure to watch this next video in our 5-part video series where I'm going to show you a different type of creative financing called a land contract. Learn what it is, how it works. So watch that video now, and remember, it's not about the money, it's about having the time and freedom to have, be, do, and give everything you want in life. That's what it's all about, and I'll see you on the next video.